So you can buy what are called bedders or hillers, and it's just a 3-point attachment you can throw on the back of your tractor, and it's got 2 discs that you pull behind you, and it forms a little row. Our garden really isn't that big, and I actually have to do the rows perpendicular to the long side. So, and on top of that, I did the quick math on it. I've got about a 6-foot imprint, from outside to outside of the tractor tires, which means I'm only going to be able to get 1 row for every track of the tractor minus 1 tire. When I move a row over, I can put that tire and the left tire's, print from before. So really I'm getting 72 minus 18 inches width rows. So 72, 52, 42 plus 2. So every 44 inches, I'll have 1 row. That's almost 4 feet per row. And we're not growing pumpkins or watermelon, we're growing string beans. Now the zucchini does take up a lot of space, but we can put that next to each other. So what I'm thinking of doing here, taking my box blade, I already yanked out 3 of the scare fires, and I'm thinking if I make something similar to a scare fire but can actually put a row in, I'll get 2 rows per every path, and that will suit our needs a lot better. So I've already dug through a bunch of my steel stock. I don't have any of the 5/8 thick material, at least not enough to make something that would fit exactly. However, the holes in that where the scare fires go can accept just over 3/4 by 2.5. So I've got some 3/4 plate here. I'm going to cut two pieces off the edges for the outside rows. And then I got this 3/4 chunk here that I can use for the center divider. And we're just going to start playing with it. I got some sheet metal laying around here, set right up front. I think that'll be plenty strong enough. The ground is already broke free. I plowed it, then tilled it, and then tilled it again. Really the biggest problem with the garden right now is that there's a bunch of hay mixed in with it with the tiller. And that hay doesn't part it'll probably end up catching a bunch of it and dragging it, and it's probably just something we'll have to fix. Make the rows in general with this thing, and then go back by hand to kind of clean them up and get rid of the rocks and go from there. So I'm gonna get after it, and we'll see how it turns out. One. So taking a quick intermission here to let the tingling out of my fingers for a minute. I'm sure some of y'all are thinking, why on earth would you go through all this trouble? You could just be done, hoeing it up in a couple of hours, especially with 2 of you, or even 3 if we got the kid out there. And, you're right, except we do it every year. And I'd much rather do this for 3-4 hours than to keep doing that hoeing. Well, you know what I mean, right? So rather than doing this or doing the hoeing for a couple of hours each year, I can do this for 2 or 3, 4 hours, which I enjoy metalwork, and not have to do that every year. It'll take me 20 minutes with the tractor in the AC, listen to the radio, versus a couple of hours of sweating my butt off out there. So take it for what it's worth. I know it's a lot of work here, and supplies, materials, whatever. To me, it's totally worth it. All right, everybody, so here's what I come up with. I got my 3 brackets made up out of 3/4 to sit in place of the scare fires. And then this will be the center hoe, I guess you could call it. And it's just 3/16 plate steel, it's all cut out. And then the side pieces, or the wings, again, hose, that's what I've got. And they're just tacked up for now. I want to test fit everything before we really go all out and weld it up. Each one of these, I've marked the blade for the box blade, which I'll show you here in a minute, but it sits when these are mounted in the box blade, there's only 6 inches of the bottom of this bracket that's below the blade. And I want my rows to be at least 10 inches deep. So I've marked 6 inches here, and then I marked 4 inches on all of these other pieces, the actual blades themselves. And I'll mount them so that I have at least a total of 10 inches below the rear blade on the back blade itself, or the box blade. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and get these guys tacked in place. I'm gonna get some gussets put in here as well, some side bracket gussets. So like when this is welded in like that, I'm gonna put a couple gussets in between and then a bracket in the back, a support bracket. And then we're gonna do a quick test fit and see how it works. It would help if the gas was on. Jeez. Don't be stupid kids like me. There we go. That looks and sounds better. Let's make sure our angles are still right. Dang close. Put a couple more tacks in here just to make sure it doesn't fall apart. Man, that is cool. Do the right side. It don't look too bad right there. All right, well, here it is installed temporarily. I haven't welded everything up. It's just tacked in place right now. Everything is solid 10 inches below that blade I was talking about, which is this guy right here. You can see it down there. I know the lighting's kind of weird right now. And I think it's gonna work out pretty good, I hope. All right, so what I'm hoping is that the wings, the winglets, whatever you wanna call them, the outside hose, catch a little more than half of the tire width of dirt. That way I can move left or right, you know, moving row to row to row, and these winglets will push, you know, towards the middle. It'll end up making 2 rows, and then when I move the row over, the opposite winglet will catch what's left on that tire track. So I should have a solid 18+ inch gap in between 2 smaller rows. So it'll give me 2 smaller rows, then a gap, then 2 smaller rows, then a gap, and it should just keep going like that. All right, I'm gonna get all these guys welded up, and next time you see it, it'll be on the tractor and in the garden. So I think for this first one, I'm just gonna drop it like half what I would normally. Just to see what happens. It's definitely making rows. Dropping a little further. things considered, I'd say that worked out pretty well. Honestly, this is working way better than I expected. Way, way better. Holy cow. So cool. 8 hours of building this thing sure was worth not shoveling, hoeing. This is almost exactly what I wanted to happen. Holy cow, this is so awesome. Maybe get a better view at it. No. Wow.
Sure beats hoeing.
Speak for yourself. So this is turning out absolutely amazing. I'm getting 2 good rows per pull versus the store-bought better Hiller or whatever you want to call it. I do like the idea of using those discs, but I didn't have any, and I am really happy with this. Wow, this turned out so much better than I expected. "20 minutes in the tractor or 2 to 3 hours breaking our backs." I'll take this. All right, so that worked out really good. A couple pointers, things to think about. You know, this soil was tilled several times. Half of the garden has been tilled for the last 5 years. The second half, I went over it probably 5 times each with the tiller, as deep as it would go. If there was more hay in there, like there was a chunk up there and a chunk down here where it grabbed that huge chunk of hay and just drug the whole row with it. We'll fix that by hand, but you can see most of it worked out fantastic. You might be wondering why I did the short rows, and that's because this is on a slope. So if we do long rows, the water just ends up going in between the rows and slipping all the way down to the bottom. So we had to do it this way to keep the water in the garden. Even when we're watering it, it still just drains right out if we don't. And our soil is very sandy, rocky and sandy. So this is just the way we got to do it. And I'm just thinking I'll go ahead and fence it and unfence it each year to do this with the tractor. We're just going to use T-posts this year. So if you want to see the rest of the garden build, go ahead and check out the other video. This was just for this Hiller slash better, and I am really happy with it. Now all I gotta do, I'm not even gonna bother painting them. I'm just gonna take them off, set them under the lean-to or in the barn. I don't really care about painting them. Doesn't make any difference to me. If it was gonna be outside all the time, sure I would, but they're not. I'll keep them under cover and out of the way. but I don't see any problems with it. It held up just fine. There was no deflection, at least that I can see, on the steel, and you can see the rows. And if this was even, you know, more loose soil, it would have worked even better. But because I mixed the hay in, it is what it is. Hopefully that helps somebody. I appreciate y'all watching. Please hit that like and subscribe. We'll catch you on the next video.